Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Wait outside, Ape. The words weren't whispered. They were fired sharp, public, irreversible. Every sound in Terminal B collapsed into silence. The coffee machine hissed once, then nothing. Dozens of passengers froze mid-step, eyes darting toward Gate 24B where the insult had landed. Dr. Naomi Ellis stood there, flawless in white, her posture steady, her face unreadable. The woman who'd spoken, Melissa Grant, gate agent, Navy uniform pressed to perfection, still held her hand up like a wall made of polished arrogance. No one said a word. They just watched. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Naomi. Naomi didn't blink. She'd heard worse before at 15, at 27, at 39. And every time, the tone was the same. Cold confidence built on assumption. She lowered her gaze briefly to the boarding pass in her hand. Sie hat 1 Ampere Skyhaven Airlines Executive Class. Her own airline. The irony almost made her smile. Almost. Ma'am, Melissa said, voice clipped and professional now. This area is for business class passengers only. You can wait in general boarding. Naomi's voice was calm, even soft. I am a business class passenger. Melissa's brow lifted. I'll need to see verification. We've had incidents. The pause after incidents carried more weight than the word itself. From the nearby seating row, a young man lifted his phone slightly, red record light blinking. Another passenger whispered, "Did she just call her?" and didn't finish the sentence. Naomi straightened her shoulders. You have my boarding pass. Melissa crossed her arm. Sometimes these are forged. That's an accusation, Naomi replied evenly. It's procedure. Behind them, the LED board blinked Flight 218 to Geneva final boarding in 9 minutes. The world continued, but that small patch of air around them turned dense, heavy with disbelief. Naomi looked past Melissa, through the jet bridge window. The plane gleamed under morning light, a silver body carrying her company's logo. She'd built that logo from nothing but nights and grit, and now she was being told to wait outside. She remembered another airport years ago, Atlanta, 2009, when a clerk had said, "People like you don't fly first class." That night she'd sworn she'd own a fleet one day. Now she did. The memory faded as she lifted her eyes back to Melissa. I suggest you check your system again. Melissa exhaled through her nose, typing without looking. What's the name? Naomi said it clearly. Dr. Naomi Ellis. The keystroke stopped. Melissa's fingers hoa. Her face didn't change, but something behind her eyes did a flicker of uncertainty she tried to hide behind policy. I'll need to confirm with my supervisor, she said quickly. Please step aside. Naomi didn't move. Her calm wasn't weakness. It was precision. From behind the desk, another employee muttered, We've had enough of these scammers this week. Naomi turned her head slowly, eyes narrowing just enough for him to look away. Scammers? She repeated, the single word slicing cleaner than any shout. The man stammered. Melissa shot him a warning glare. Ma'am, please don't escalate this, she said. Naomi's reply was almost a whisper. You already did. The PA system chimed. Final call for Skyhaven Flight 218. Every head turned again to the gate, to the woman in white, to the storm building behind her silence. She exhaled once, slow, deliberate, then reached for her phone. Time to see how your protocol handles truth, she murmured. Melissa's smile didn't reach her eyes. She spoke into the radio clipped to her collar, voice low but meant to be heard. Supervisor to Gate 24B. Possible fraudulent ticket. Passengers shifted, a soft rustle of disbelief moving through the boarding area. Someone muttered, Fraudulent? She's been standing there this whole time. Another whispered, She looks calmer than the staff. Dr. Naomi Ellis didn't move. She held her phone loosely, thumb hovering above the screen, the reflection of the jet bridge glinting in her eyes. Every inch of her posture said, I've been here before. From the back of the gate, a tall man in a gray vest approached. Tom Riker, Gate supervisor mid-50s, confident in his authority, the kind of man who never doubted his right to interrupt. "Ma'am," he began, "I understand there's some confusion about your ticket." "No confusion," Naomi said evenly, "just poor judgment." Tom gave a patronizing chuckle. "Right, miss, can I see your ID?" "Doctor," she corrected. That single word landed with quiet weight. Melissa folded her arms, lips tightening. Tom frowned, checking the boarding pass. "This was purchased under a corporate account. You're saying you're Dr. Naomi Ellis?" Naomi met his gaze. "Yes." He paused. "That's interesting." "How so?" Tom turned the ticket around, tapping the Sky Haven logo with his pen. "Because Dr. Ellis is on the board of directors, and something tells me she doesn't wait in line." Naomi's expression didn't change. "You're right. She doesn't." The line hit harder than she expected. It hung there, electric, making Melissa glance up for the first time with real uncertainty. Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I'm sure there's a mix-up, but we have to protect our premium spaces. You understand that?" Naomi tilted her head. "Protect them from what, exactly?" Her tone was still low, still calm, but there was iron beneath it. Tom looked past her, searching for backup. Two security staff hovered nearby, unsure. A young flight attendant, Lara Cho, no more than 26, stood at the boarding door, gripping her tablet. Her brow furrowed as she scanned the manifest. "Sir," Lara said carefully, "the system does show a Dr. Naomi Ellis in seat 1 Ampere. Melissa shot her a glare. "That's impossible. Try again." I already did." Lara's voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "It's a verified priority account." Tom's pen froze midair. Passengers began recording. The energy in the gate shifted caution, turning into realization. Naomi exhaled softly. She remembered what her mentor once told her. Power doesn't always speak first. It waits until everyone else is done lying. "Thank you, Miss Cho," she said, her voice steady. "You can step back now." "Ugh," Lara nodded, retreating toward the jet bridge, shoulders still tense. Naomi turned to Melissa. "You accused me of fraud." Melissa's mouth opened, then closed. I was just following protocol." Naomi's tone sharpened, just enough to cut. "No, you were following prejudice." The words hung like thunder just before the storm. Tom swallowed. "Ma'am, let's not make this bigger than it is." Naomi took one step closer. "Oh, it's already bigger. You just don't know who's watching yet." And somewhere in the corner, Ethan, the young man in the hoodie, whispered to his phone. "She owns the airline." The air inside Gate 24B had changed. What began as quiet disbelief now pulsed with electricity, half fear, half fascination. Every phone in the crowd was raised. Every breath waited for what would happen next. Tom Riker's jaw tensed. He turned toward security. "Escort her to the customer service desk. We'll verify this elsewhere." But neither guard moved. Both had heard Lara's words. Siat 1 Ampere. Verified priority. Naomi Ellis didn't blink. "You're really doubling down on this?" Tom forced a chuckle. "Ma'am, this is an airport, not a courtroom." Her reply was soft, but razor clean. "That's the problem. You think accountability only lives in court." Melissa's voice cracked as she tried to reclaim authority. "If you refuse to comply, we'll have to call TSA." "Oh, you've already called them," Naomi said, eyes flicking to the blinking radio on Melissa's hip. "You did that 3 minutes ago. How would you—" "I know your system," Naomi interrupted. "I designed half of it." A ripple ran through the crowd. Someone whispered, "She's serious." Lara, still standing near the jet bridge, pressed her lips together, torn between training and truth. "Mr. Riker," she said carefully, "corporate compliance monitors these incidents live when there's a priority flag. We might already be—" Tom spun on her. "That's enough!" But it wasn't. Naomi lifted her phone, tapped once. A clear, confident voice came through the speaker. "Dr. Ellis, this is Naya from Executive Ops. Your protocol. 7 activation is in progress. HR and legal are now on the call." The sound echoed through the gate like a verdict. Melissa's hands dropped to her sides. "Protocol what?" she whispered. Naomi met her eyes. "The one we use when bias threatens our brand." Tom's face drained of color. You can't be serious. We had no idea." "You didn't care too," Naomi cut in. Her calm was colder now, precise. "You saw skin, not status, and that's why you're about to lose both." Security finally stepped back, uncertain which side they were on. Lara's tablet chimed. The display flashed administrative override, executive present. Her eyes widened. It's confirming your identity, ma'am. Naomi nodded once. Thank you. Around them, passengers began murmuring words that mixed outrage with awe. A woman near the window whispered, "She built this airline." Another man filmed quietly, captioning his clip. "They kicked out their own CEO." Tom stumbled for words. "Dr. Ellis, This was a misunderstanding." Naomi's expression didn't shift. No, it was a revelation. Then she looked at the young woman still clutching her tablet. "Miss Cho, could you please finalize the manifest?" Lara's voice steadied. "Yes, doctor." Melissa tried once more, desperate. "Please, I didn't mean—" Naomi raised a hand. "Stop. Intent doesn't erase impact." The gate fell silent again, this time not from shock, but respect. She turned toward the jet bridge, the silver aircraft gleaming beyond it. Every step she took felt like the sound of the system cracking open. Behind her, phones kept recording. Truth had already gone viral. Naomi paused at the doorway, looking back one last time. Her voice was calm, but it filled the room. The next flight leaving from this gate won't carry prejudice, only lessons. And with that, she walked through. The jet bridge hummed beneath her heels, that hollow, metallic echo that follows every step toward consequence. Behind Dr. Naomi Ellis, the murmur of the crowd dimmed into whispers. Phones still recorded, but the story had already left the room. She stopped halfway down the tunnel. The morning light spilled through the glass, casting her shadow long and sharp against the wall, the silhouette of calm authority. Inside the plane, flight attendants froze as she entered. The cabin chief, Angela Ruiz, recognized the name on her screen before Naomi even spoke. "Dr. Ellis?" she asked carefully. "Ma'am, we've been notified. You have full clearance." Naomi nodded, voice even. "Thank you, Angela. Continue your prep. I'll need access to the flight logs shortly." Angela's eyebrows lifted. She'd only seen that protocol invoked once before, during an internal investigation. "Yes, ma'am. Right away." Naomi turned, facing the narrow aisle that separated first class from the rest of the cabin. Through the glass partition, she could still see the gate agents, Tom gesturing wildly, Melissa pale and shaking. They had no idea that every word, every radio call, every facial expression was being streamed to corporate ethics in real time. She raised her phone. "Nia," she said softly. "Confirm visual link." A voice replied through her earpiece, calm and crisp. "Confirmed. Live feed from Gate 24. BHR Director and Board Council are observing." Naomi's eyes didn't move from the gate window. "Good. Keep the line open." Passengers whispered to one another. Some recognized her face now, the woman from Forbes, the one who turned a bankrupt carrier into an empire. A teenager in row 3 whispered to his mother, "That's her. She owns the planes." His mother nodded slowly. "And they tried to throw her out." Naomi exhaled, the kind of breath that releases decades of silence. Her reflection on the glass looked almost unfamiliar, not because of power, but because of peace. She remembered a boardroom years earlier, a man leaning back in his chair saying, "You're brilliant, but they won't follow a woman like you." She'd smiled then too, the same way she did now, slow, unshaken. "They always do, eventually." "Dr. Ellis," Angela said gently, approaching with a tablet. "Compliance is requesting a statement. Do you want to speak now or wait until we taxi?" "Now," Naomi replied. "They need to hear this while the floor is still warm." She pressed a single button on the tablet, and the cabin speakers clicked softly, linking her directly to the corporate line. "This is Dr. Naomi Ellis," she began, her voice steady as steel. "At approximately 10:47 a.m., I was denied boarding on my own airline by staff operating under the assumption that access equals worth. That assumption ends today." Across the terminal, Tom and Melissa froze as her voice echoed faintly through their radios. Passengers near them gasped. Some applauded quietly. Naomi continued. "Effective immediately, Gate 24B's management will be placed on suspension pending review, and every employee under my leadership will complete bias reformation training before month's end." She paused, letting the silence sit heavy. "I don't need to shout for change, I just need to sign it." The line went quiet. Angela stood in awe. "Ma'am, that was—" Naomi interrupted softly. "Necessary." She turned toward her seat, 1 ampere, waiting just where she'd paid for it, and sat down without a word. Outside, Melissa's badge light turned red. Tom's tablet flashed, access revoked, justice, delivered at cruising altitude. Gate 24B had fallen completely silent. The announcement of temporary suspension hit harder than any raised voice could. Melissa stood frozen behind the counter, staring at her badge as its small red light blinked slow, final. Tom's tablet chimed 3 times before locking him out entirely. The screen went gray. Administrative privileges revoked. He looked around, helpless, as passengers murmured, recording everything. Across the jet bridge, Dr. Naomi Ellis sat in her seat calm, centered as if the chaos behind her belonged to another world. She didn't gloat, she didn't smile, she simply waited. The intercom crackled. Dr. Ellis, HR Director on line 1. Naomi pressed her earpiece. Go ahead. Aye. A steady female voice came through. We're reviewing the incident in real time. Do you want to proceed with termination or investigation? Both, Naomi said. Due process doesn't exclude accountability. Make sure their recordings are preserved. And note that Lara Cho spoke truthfully. Her integrity will be recognized. Back at the gate, Laura blinked at the sound of her name over the loudspeaker. Her colleagues turned to her, stunned. The young flight attendant looked down, exhaling in disbelief, half relief, half pride. Naomi's voice continued through the open comm line, audible to everyone nearby. I built this airline to fly people, not prejudice. If we can't get that right on the ground, we don't deserve the sky. Applause broke out first from a few passengers, then from nearly everyone in the boarding area. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Tom stepped back, shaking his head. She really was the CEO, he whispered. Naomi rose from her seat. Angela, the cabin chief, moved to meet her. Ma'am, she said softly, corporate just confirmed. You're cleared to continue to Geneva. The crew's ready when you are. Naomi nodded. Thank you. Keep the flight steady. I'll make one last call. She stepped to the galley, dialing through her earpiece. Nia, she said, her tone calm but absolute. Issue a company-wide memo. 0 tolerance for bias incidents. No exceptions, no defenses. Include my signature at the top. Yes, ma'am, came the reply. Naomi looked out the oval window. The runway shimmered in midday heat, long, straight, honest. Her reflection stared back, composed, formidable, a woman who'd learned that silence can be louder than outrage. She closed her eyes for a brief moment and saw a younger version of herself, 19, standing at a counter in Dallas, clutching a student ticket while a clerk said, "Not your kind of flight, sweetheart." That memory had lived in her bones for decades. And now, at 42, she'd rewritten it at 35,000 feet. The captain's voice came through the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for departure. Naomi smiled faintly. Finally. Oh. As the plane began to taxi, she glanced once more toward the glass corridor. Through the narrow window, she could see security escorting Tom and Melissa out their uniforms, suddenly small against the vastness of the tarmac. Justice didn't always roar. Sometimes, it boarded quietly, took its seat, and flew. The plane lifted off with the grace of certainty. Engines hummed like a calm heartbeat, steady, controlled, inevitable. As the skyline of the city faded beneath the clouds, Dr. Naomi Ellis leaned back in seat 1 Ampere, eyes half closed, finally exhaling what felt like a decade's worth of restraint. The world below had just witnessed justice without shouting. And yet, the real work, the correction, was only beginning. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Nia. Footage from Gate 24B trending globally. Number fly with respect has hit 3. 2 M views in 18 minutes. Naomi smiled faintly. Not satisfaction, confirmation. When truth takes flight, she murmured. People follow. Angela, the cabin chief, approached quietly. Dr. Ellis, legal sent an update. Both employees have been escorted out. HR requests a formal closing statement from you before landing. Naomi nodded. Tell them to wait for my signal. I want to land before we sign anything. Let the world digest what it just saw. Angela hesitated. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for how you handled it. Naomi's gaze softened. No one learns when you scream. They learn when they're forced to listen. She turned toward the window again. The clouds below glowed gold. Somewhere down there, the same airport that had tried to reject her still bore her name on every gate, every plane, every policy manual. 2 hours later, the seatbelt sign blinked off. Naomi opened her laptop. Dozens of emails flooded in journalists, board members, civil rights foundations. But one message caught her attention. Subject, proud of you. From Ruth Ellis' mom. She paused, reading the single line that followed. You did it your way, quietly. A laugh, small, genuine, escaped her. Then she began typing. Her reply was only 3 words. I learned silence. Down on the ground, in a conference room overlooking the runway, HR and legal watched the playback of the event. Melissa sat in a chair, pale, clutching a paper cup. Tom stared at the table, speechless. Across from them, a compliance officer spoke into a recorder. Incident confirmed. Bias-based misconduct. Immediate termination with educational reinstatement option denied. It was over. Back in the air, Naomi closed her laptop. She pressed the call button. Angela appeared almost instantly. Angela, she said, let the passengers know we'll be landing shortly. And when we do open with this announcement, welcome to Geneva, where dignity flies first. Angela smiled. That's powerful. Naomi shook her head. That's policy. The seatbelt sign chimed again. The plane began its descent, cutting through layers of light and cloud. Naomi looked down at the horizon, a thin line of fire stretching across the edge of the world. Her voice was almost a whisper. They thought they could ground me, she said, but I was never standing still. The city lights of Geneva flickered into view. Somewhere, far behind, a system had cracked open, and from it, something cleaner was beginning to rise. Geneva greeted her with glass and silence. The Skyhaven headquarters towered above the city like a promise kept steel, sky, and reflection. Dr. Naomi Ellis stepped out of the black sedan, the same calm following her that had silenced an entire terminal just hours earlier. Inside the boardroom, 12 executives waited. The air carried that strange tension found only in rooms where power shifts. Some looked relieved, others avoided her gaze. The chairman, Richard Halden, cleared his throat. Naomi, that was quite an incident. She set her tablet on the table. No anger in her face, only precision. It wasn't an incident, Richard. It was exposure. He tried to smile. Still, public attention. Public attention, she cut in, isn't the problem. Prejudice is. The room went still. A younger board member, Amir Qureshi, leaned forward. The videos reached 30 million views. Investors are calling this a turning point. Naomi nodded slightly. Good. Then we turn. She tapped her tablet. The wall screen behind her flickered to life, showing footage of the confrontation, every second captured from multiple angles. Tom's dismissive smirk, Melissa's slur. Then Naomi's calm, her restraint, her precision. This, she said quietly, isn't a scandal. It's a syllabus. We'll use it in every leadership training starting tomorrow. Gasps rippled around the table. Richard blinked. You're serious? As serious as the ground we take off from, Naomi said. She looked around the room, each face reflected in the polished table. Power without accountability is turbulence, and I don't fly through turbulence twice. A silence followed, respectful, heavy, final. Amir broke it first. Then it's settled. The Ellis Protocol becomes policy. Naomi gave a single nod. Put it in writing before I leave this room. Outside, Geneva sunlight streamed across the table, catching the edge of her white blazer. For a brief second, the reflection on the glass wall showed her alone, calm, strong, and untouchable. They hadn't just witnessed their CEO's authority, they'd seen justice take a seat at the head of the table. 2 days later, back at Skyhaven headquarters in Seattle, the press room was overflowing. Rows of cameras blinked like restless eyes, waiting for the story's final word. At the podium stood Melissa Grant, once a gate agent, now visibly trembling under the lights. Beside her, calm, centered, was Dr. Naomi Ellis. Melissa took a shaky breath. Her voice cracked on the first word. I want to apologize. She glanced at Naomi, then at the reporters. Not just to Dr. Ellis, but to every passenger who's ever been treated as less than they are. I was wrong. Naomi's gaze didn't waver. She let the silence work that deliberate, heavy kind of quiet that forces truth to settle. Melissa continued, tears breaking her voice. I thought I was protecting company policy, but what I was really protecting was my own bias. Cameras clicked. The sound filled the room like rainfall. Naomi finally stepped forward. Her tone was soft but absolute. Apologies don't erase damage, she said, but they mark where the rebuilding starts. She turned slightly toward Melissa. Accountability doesn't destroy careers. It reshapes them. What you do next will matter more than what you did. The statement wasn't a punishment, it was a door, and everyone in that room felt it. From the front row, a reporter raised his hand. Dr. Ellis, are you planning any further disciplinary actions? Naomi shook her head. The real discipline is awareness, the kind that doesn't fade after the news cycle ends. She looked out at the sea of faces, journalists, employees, even passengers who'd flown in just to see her speak. Skyhaven will not issue press-friendly forgiveness, she continued. We'll issue measurable reform, training, audits, promotions based on empathy as much as efficiency. Flashbulbs fired. One journalist murmured, "She's changing the entire industry." Naomi stepped away from the mic, her expression unreadable but her posture radiant with certainty. Behind her, the Skyhaven logo glowed bright blue, its wings spread across the wall like a new promise. As she left the stage, the crowd stood not in applause, but in respect. No one cheered. No one shouted. They simply watched as a black woman, once dismissed at her own gate, walked past them with the dignity that built the sky itself. The apology went viral before the press conference even ended. Within hours, news outlets across 3 continents replayed the clip of Dr. Naomi Ellis standing beside the woman who once humiliated her not in vengeance, but in vision. The image spread like a pulse. Black woman, calm power, public grace. Number fly with respect. Trended again, but this time, not as outrage. It became a movement. At airports from Atlanta to Johannesburg, employees began sharing their own stories, times they'd stayed silent, times they'd spoken up. By nightfall, Skyhaven's customer hotline was flooded not with complaints, but messages of gratitude. One simply read, "Thank you for showing the world what accountability looks like in real time." In a dim cafe near the Seattle airport, Laura Cho scrolled through her phone. A headline flashed, "Young flight attendant who spoke up during viral gate, incident promoted to training lead." She exhaled, a smile breaking across her face. Her friend across the table said softly, "You did the right thing." Lara nodded. She made it safe to. Across town, in a small apartment, Melissa watched the same broadcast. Her uniform lay folded on the chair, not a symbol of shame anymore, but a reminder. She opened an email titled, "Skyhaven Equity Fellowship Acceptance Confirmed." Naomi's personal note was attached. "Redemption isn't granted. It's chosen. Start here." Melissa read it twice before whispering, "Thank you," to no one in particular. At corporate headquarters, Naomi stood by the window of her office overlooking the runway. Jets lined up like silver sentences written across the sky. She'd received hundreds of messages, activists, CEOs, even competitors asking how she managed to turn scandal into standard. Her assistant Nia entered quietly. "Media requests are non-stop. CNN, BBC, even The Economist. They all want you." Naomi smiled faintly. "They don't need me. They need the model." "Who?" She turned from the window, walking toward the framed quote on her wall, words her mother had said when she first dreamed of flying. "You don't have to be loud to be heard, just be undeniable." Naomi touched the glass gently, the reflection of the sky shimmering behind her. "You were right, Mom," she whispered. "They hear us now." Nia hesitated at the door. "Ma'am, people are calling this the Ellis effect." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "No, call it what it is, balance." Ugh. Outside, a Skyhaven jet roared into ascent, its engines slicing through cloud and light. Naomi watched until it disappeared into blue. Her company, her people, her justice carried on the wind. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to close her eyes. Not to rest, but to remember that sometimes the quietest revolution happens at 30,000 feet. The next morning, Skyhaven's Seattle headquarters felt different, quieter, lighter, almost reverent. Dr. Naomi Ellis arrived before sunrise, the corridors still half lit, the city outside painted in pale blue. On her desk sat a single envelope. No name on the front, just 2 words. "For you." She opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter, neat, careful script. It was from Tom Riker. "Dr. Ellis, I've spent the past 48 hours replaying that morning over and over. I told myself I was enforcing policy, but really, I was protecting comfort mine, not the company's. Watching the footage, I saw the difference between order and respect. One I upheld, the other I ignored. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope this lesson lives longer than my mistake." "Tom." Naomi stared at the page for a long time. No anger, no pity, just reflection. Then she folded it neatly, placed it in the top drawer of her desk, and whispered, "Maybe we're finally learning how to fly right." She turned toward the window. Outside, morning light spilled over the tarmac rows of planes gleaming like silver promises. Her assistant, Nia, entered holding a tablet. "Ma'am, we've received over 10,000 applications for the new diversity program. Airports worldwide are requesting to license your training system." Naomi smiled. "That's the ripple." Nia hesitated. "Also, your mother called. She said the neighbors keep stopping by to say they saw you on TV." Naomi laughed quietly. "Tell her I'm still the same girl who missed her first flight because she was too nervous to speak up." Nia grinned. "You've come a long way from that gate." Naomi's tone softened. "We all have." She picked up a pen and began drafting a new company statement. It started with one line: "Every flight is a reflection of who we are, not just where we go." Then she paused, eyes lifting toward the distant runway where another Skyhaven jet began to roll. Engines roared, wheels lifted, air met steel, the universal language of forward. She whispered to herself, "We take off again." Her phone buzzed with a new notification, an email from the U.S. Department of Transportation inviting her to lead a nationwide panel on bias-free aviation standards. Naomi's eyes gleamed. "Let's expand the sky," she said. As she left her office, the letter from Tom remained in the drawer, not a scar, but a compass. A reminder that leadership wasn't about being perfect. It was about turning pain into policy. The elevator doors closed behind her. Somewhere outside, another plane rose into the morning light, not just flying higher, but fairer. 3 months later, Geneva once again shimmered under the summer sun, this time hosting the Global Aviation Ethics Summit. Delegates from 70 countries filled the grand hall, cameras poised, translators whispering through earpieces. At the center stage stood Dr. Naomi Ellis, representing Skyhaven and, unofficially, every woman who'd ever been told she didn't belong where she was standing. The moderator's voice rang out. "Dr. Ellis, after the incident that shook your company, Skyhaven has become a global model for equity. How did you manage reform without revolt?" Naomi smiled slightly. "By remembering that dignity isn't a headline, it's a habit." She paused, letting the sentence breathe. "You can't fix culture with fear. You fix it with clarity, consistency, and courage." Applause rippled across the hall. Behind her, the large LED screen displayed Skyhaven's new initiative, the Ellis Protocol Global Implementation. It outlined mandatory empathy training for airline staff worldwide, co-developed with the UN Human Rights Commission. A journalist called from the crowd, "Do you forgive the people who wronged you?" Naomi turned toward the question, expression serene. "Forgiveness isn't a transaction," she said. "It's a transition. I don't hold grudges, I hold standards." That line broke the room open, laughter, applause, even a few standing in quiet respect. When the session ended, delegates lined up just to shake her hand. A pilot from South Africa said softly, "My daughter watches your videos every night. She says she wants to own an airline someday." Naomi smiled. "Tell her to build one that flies fair." Ugh. Later, in the quiet of her hotel balcony overlooking Lake Geneva, she finally let herself rest. The reflection of city lights shimmered on the water like distant constellations. She whispered to the night, "It started with an insult and ended with instruction." The world was listening now, and justice once grounded by disbelief had officially taken off. A year later, the Skyhaven campus had grown into something bigger than Naomi Ellis had ever imagined, a global headquarters and an academy all in one. The new glass atrium bore her words etched into its entrance. "Power isn't noise, it's precision." Every week, hundreds of new recruits, pilots, attendants, engineers, executives walked through those doors to begin training under the Ellis Protocol, now adopted by 16 airlines worldwide. Naomi moved through the hall quietly, no entourage, no announcement. She preferred to see the learning in motion, the quiet hum of transformation. A young woman in uniform caught sight of her and froze. "Dr. Ellis? You're really here?" Naomi smiled. "I try to be where the next story starts." The trainee straightened, nervous but proud. "I joined because of what you did that day, at the gate." Naomi nodded slowly. "Then promise me something. Don't join to prove them wrong. Join to prove what's possible." The young woman's eyes glistened. "Yes, ma'am." Naomi continued walking, passing a mural of moments from the past year, her speech at Geneva, the apology, the press headline, Black CEO who changed the sky. She stopped before a display case, her first pilot's logbook, her mother's photo, and the original boarding pass that once read Seat 1 Ampere, the same ticket that had started it all. Next to it, a small plaque read, "The day they tried to ground her, she taught the world to fly." Naomi touched the glass gently. That morning at Gate 24B felt like a lifetime ago, and yet it still breathed beneath everything Skyhaven had become. Outside, the sound of jet engines rolled across the sky, not loud, but alive. She looked out the window where a group of children toured the hangar, their eyes wide with awe. Among them was a little girl clutching a toy plane. When she saw Naomi, she waved shyly. Naomi waved back. Her assistant, Nia, approached softly. "Board meeting in 15 minutes. They want to finalize the global ethics partnership." Naomi turned, her smile calm. "Good. Let's make sure it's written in every language that the sky understands." As she walked toward the elevator, sunlight poured through the atrium, framing her like a figure drawn in gold. No fanfare, no speech, just presence. Because legacy, she thought, wasn't what people said about you when you were gone. It was the system that stayed standing after you left. The elevator doors closed, carrying her upward like everything she had ever built, everything she had ever believed in. And outside, across airports and skies and continents, one truth had finally taken root: dignity flies highest.